They're used to the teachers starting from the front, giving instructions, then handing out the work, and then assessing the work and moving on. What we're doing is we're switching it around. We're asking the kids to actively engage in cognitive thinking from the onset of a lesson and to make meaning of the concept you're teaching before you explain it. It's like solving a riddle. You don't give the answer to the riddle, you let them sit in it. I let them sit in the struggle of it a little bit. And at first, when I first give them to students, they don't love that. They're like, just give me the worksheet, just tell me what to do. But that is the work of learning, is sitting in the struggle.
Now, before we get into the conversation, I'd like you to help us out with a little contest. So Tom and I have been creating these graphics. There's these ISTE Adobe Challenge graphics, and we each created one. So what we need you to do right now is take a look at them and tell us which one is better.
Okay.
Now, this is a straight up, we want to know which one is better. This is not, you're not being nice here
or anything
I have
opinions.
Like that. Okay, so I'm going to give you an iPad here. Okay. And all you're going to do is just swipe and take a look. So that's obviously Tom. So take a close look. Take your time.
It's very nice, Tom.
Really evaluate
Yes.
it. Yep.
Did you have some po' boys? Nice. You're going to eat some po' boys. Nice. This is my... Get your nerd hat on. Nice. Okay.
Now you swipe to the next one. Do you see me there? Let's see. There we go.
Huh.
What do you think about that one?
Oh yeah. This one's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one.
What do you like about it?
Well, they want to learn more about how to use HyperDocs.
Okay.
And you want to talk about HyperDocs. So I really like this one. The design is clean, and you're just on point with your topics.
Yeah, I have to agree. That one is clearly superior.
And I see you have my book in front of you because you might see me reading the book. Yeah, this is definitely... Oh, and you're most excited to meet me at ISTE. I just saw that part. Hands down winner.
Sorry, Tom.
Sam, that was a masterclass in knowing your audience.
Reading the room.
Well, now I do get to meet you and chat about HyperDocs.
Love it.
And actually I have your book, the HyperDoc Handbook, in front of me, a book you co-authored with Sarah Landis and Kelly Hilton, who I also just found out are here. That's so fun.
Yeah.
And we also just found out that I grew up very close to where you teach. So that's pretty cool.
What a small world. I tell you, it's good to slow down and just talk to people here.
Absolutely.
What you find out is amazing.
Absolutely. Now, you wrote this book, deeply influential book for the way that teachers approach lesson design. You wrote it back in 2016, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm curious, what was the impetus to write the book? Why did you think there was a need for teachers to learn how to do lesson design in this way?
Well, prior to that, a couple of years prior to that, that was the big push. We were getting a lot of Chromebooks in the classroom. A lot of teachers were getting Chromebook carts with everyone on a device, and they really didn't know what to do with it. The kids were all getting their Chromebooks, typing in URLs and not getting to the sites they wanted, and they were doing these one-off activities that the teachers felt didn't really enhance their teaching. And we wanted to pull together that aspect of good instruction with using a device for really good learning experiences for students. And so that's kind of what started it. And we started doing these digital lessons, HyperDocs are digital lessons, in the classroom. And every time we would talk, we were like, I did this digital lesson, and it sounded so weird to say that. We're like, we should call it something so it's easier to just talk about it. And we went round and round with names, and then we came up with the name HyperDoc, like by accident, because we were talking that it's alive, alive, and it's a document. And it's stuck. And so we decided to write about it and share with people because word of mouth, it spread for a couple of years before the book in 2016. So
You're telling me that the word hyper and HyperDoc means alive? I always thought it was a hyperlink. Is that not where the name comes from?
Hyper is alive. We just thought it was never about being a link. It was about being alive, because when you give a worksheet to a student, you can't change it. We call them dead worksheets. The minute you print it, you're like, oh, I wanted to change that. That lesson didn't go well. And you have to retype it, reprint it, and make a whole class set. But this, I could go back into any kind of a digital document, change it on the spot while the kids are actually working. And that's where that word hyper came from. alive.
That is so interesting. I wonder if that also has to do with how people perceive HyperDocs sometimes. And I know that you're very intentional about clarifying what a HyperDoc is and what a HyperDoc is not.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong as well, that it came from a place where teachers at the time were doing internet scavenge type activities that perhaps were not intentional, and the HyperDoc was a way to kind of make something like that where you're using lots of different resources, apps, and things like that more intentional. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was about pulling together good instruction and a powerful cycle of learning. I worked with Ramsey Musalem about the cycles of learning and putting a structure to your digital lesson to guide students on tech, off tech. The teacher guides the student through this lesson in a powerful way for the learning to stick. So that means first they would explore the concept, then the teacher would explain the concept, or it would be embedded in the lesson, and then apply the concept. So explore, explain, apply is this base structure to the lesson that you build in those aspects of it. And that is the game changer from it. That's what makes it different than a document with links or a worksheet or just a document that has a lot of links to tasks to do.
Right.
It's not a to-do list. There's an actual ebb and flow to it that's really purposeful for deep learning.
Now, this term, HyperDoc, is something that obviously you all coined. I imagine it's gained in popularity to an extent where it's probably you've lost some ownership over it. It's out there in the world. I'm curious if you see it being misapplied sometimes to certain types of lessons or documents that people are referring to as a HyperDoc, but that maybe don't actually meet the qualifications of a HyperDoc.
We never thought that the world would change so quickly. We were, hoping teachers would shift to digital learning with lessons. When the pandemic hit and schools shut down, teachers did find HyperDocs to be a really important answer to their instruction. But the word got away from us, definitely. It's become its own word. It's sort of like Xerox. Everything's a Xerox machine or a Post-it. I mean, it's not that popular, but everyone calls a digital lesson a HyperDoc, whether it's based off of our version of a HyperDoc or not. Ours is all about that explore, explain, apply. So I can look at one right away, and if there isn't that structure to it, I know it could be a digital worksheet. And I encourage people to think critically as lesson designers. When you see a HyperDoc, that's the first thing I ask you to look for. Do you see the lesson design in it? If not, can you add it back in? It's not about finding the perfect lesson. It's about looking at it, being inspired by it, and you designing it. You're the designer. Lesson design is very personal. And you should bring your craft of designing instruction for your kids to that lesson.
You specifically say explore, explain, apply as essentially a sequence. When you're talking about explore, if you could actually explain a little bit what that means and how that is different from explain. And I think we can probably tie in Holly's work around constructivist learning here as well, and the understanding that students need to explore before explaining. But what does that mean? What are you supposed to do to explore before you explain?
I'm going to say this, how teachers tend to really understand this. When they come into the classroom and they sit down and they just say, just tell me what to do. They're used to the teachers starting from the front, giving instructions, then handing out the work, and the kids doing the work, and then assessing the work and moving on. What we're doing is we're switching it around. We're asking the kids to actively engage in cognitive thinking from the onset of a lesson and to make meaning of the concept you're teaching, the standard, the objective, before you explain it. It's like a mystery. It's like solving a riddle. You don't give the answer to the riddle. You let them sit in it. You let them ponder. I always say I let them sit in the struggle of it a little bit. And at first, when I first give them to students, they don't love that. They're like, just give me the worksheet. Just tell me what to do. But that is the work of learning, is sitting in the struggle. I always say, then, it's like exercising. You got to do a little bit, feel the pain a little. Not pain, but feel the stretch. And that's when you really know you're learning. So we ask kids to explore a concept and try to make meaning of it first. Now, we don't just let them go on that. It's really important that you bring your craft as a teacher to that HyperDoc lesson. So after that little short a period of time to explore, maybe I give them 10 minutes to 20 minutes, whatever amount of time we have. It might be the whole class lesson if it's a big exploration. I have expectations for that. They have to share out, what did you discover? What do you now know about this concept? That's my very first formative assessment, really quick, on the spot. I can see how much they know about this concept. That informs me before I go into the explanation. I can they did not get it at all. I need to revise their understanding, or I need to go deeper because I want them to get it at a higher level. Or maybe they do already know the concept, and I can speed through it or take them to a different angle of it when I get to the explain portion of the lesson. And that is maybe the explain portion of the lesson. Could be direct instruction. It might be my lecture. It might be where, again, I build in a digital feature. Maybe it's a video they're watching. If I were to teach them a math concept, I might teach it live, but in the explain portion, I might put a video of that lesson as well. It's back to my old days of flip teaching, because I used to flip teach back in 2010.
Yeah.
And so I embed that flip teaching right in the explain portion, because when I'm thinking about universal design for learning, I want to build a lesson that meets all students' needs. So if they don't hear me during the live lesson, I want to build in the resource where they have that agency to know where to go back and hear that information again if they didn't get it. Kids need to hear the concept over and over again. So I want to build that feature in. And when we say design lessons with purpose and intention for all learners, that's what we're talking about. It really helps my language learners as well. I make my videos and they know how to change the closed captioning to their language so they can understand my lesson as well. In YouTube, that's my favorite feature.
Yeah.
And so that's a really important distinction, that there is concrete instruction happening, but I didn't give away the joke beforehand, like someone else who just had a little joke with me today. Because it's sort of like telling them what's in the prize, in the package before you let them open it. That's the joy of learning. Let them discover, let them have inquiry-based learning for real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I'm curious to explore this a little bit more in the explain phase, the potential to have lecture, the potential to have that be a video that you create and then is essentially something that students can access, and that actually allows us to implement some of the checkpoints in UDL around being able to changing some options for perception with closed captioning, the ability to go back, rewatch that information, now with loads of different apps to be able to add some interactivity questions to scaffold for understanding and make sure that there are some checkpoints for students to be able to monitor their own understanding, which helps build self-awareness and things like that. Do you think that there is an argument to be made that at this point we should be shifting essentially to video-based lessons for those reasons, or does live lecture, that sort of more traditional stand in front of the classroom and teach a mini lesson, still have a place in this vision that you have for a HyperDoc?
I see both. And I really want to emphasize, sometimes people are overwhelmed by HyperDocs and think that I have to do a HyperDoc for every single lesson. And that's not the case. I always tell people, when you want a concept to really stick, something that they just need to know, it's an essential standard, you're moving on to the next grade level next year, I need you to know this and really have this down this year. Those are the ones I would make the videos of. Those are the ones I would build in the additional support. The parents watch these videos as well. They're able to be a partner at home with the students that aren't feeling the success that everyone else is feeling. So I don't think you have to do it for all of them. I think there's still a place for quick mini lessons in the classroom that are live, away from tech, off of tech. And I think there's this balance you do. A lot of one thing is never good. And so I always try to create this balance. I don't want to create HyperDoc fatigue in the classroom. Not another HyperDoc, because then they just start to see it as another, they see it. I have to train their thinking. They're used to a worksheet, and they think they could just fly through it. and these are different. And so I control their flow through this HyperDoc lesson. It's not for them to complete in 10 minutes and say, I'm done.
Integrating live instruction with technology-based instruction is blended learning, essentially, the way that you both define blended learning. As far as I understand it, there has been, I think, a misconception about what it means now to teach with technology, that when you say that equates to remote teaching. And I wonder if you've seen that also taking place, that now there's a feeling like that type of lesson planning is only for remote teaching. And if you're feeling a kind of need to go out there in the world and say no, and same, I think, applies for you. I'm curious to hear what you think as well, that you're now having to, you're in this kind of place that must be so frustrating. Like, I still have to go back now and make the argument that when we're back in person, we should still use the technology, that it's not just for remote instruction. Is that something you're experiencing?
Well, I think I'm experiencing, and everyone is experiencing, the idea of screen time being blended learning. Like, the kids are on the screens and the parents don't want them on the screens and the students themselves don't want to be on the screens. And it's not about screen time, it's about the task. And if the task is well developed the way that Lisa talks about, then no one will care about the screen time. The screen time is just part of the experience. But when screen time is consumption, and I'm going to Zoom school, and that's not what we want. We don't want kids at Zoom school. We want kids doing greater things. And Lisa actually is involved with the Virtual Online Learning Academy. And I think you should talk about how you're not doing Zoom school, how blended, like the experience you're trying to bring to those children.
Yeah, it's definitely really listening to students and listening to where is their engagement and how do you get them to join in a conversation, and how do you get, especially in a virtual environment, how do you connect everyone when they're all over the place? And so you build in that's part of the design. You build it in yourself, depending on who are the kids in front of you. And a lot of times I want them at home writing in their writer's notebook. So I will definitely design that into the apply portion or into the explain portion. I'll give them tasks, and then we will build off of those moments. But I think it's really important to have this balance of on tech, off tech, and really be clear for expectations. We need to get away from thinking and just assigning tasks, because what we're doing is we're creating students who come in, wait to be told what to do, and they're not building agency for learning. Mm-hmm. And they're not able to critically think and be self-starters and to take risks with their learning or build this curiosity. I talk a lot about embedding curiosity into my HyperDoc. People say, well, I want kids to be curious. And I work with kindergartners through 12th graders. There's a huge difference. But they're all curious. It's what you give them. So when I hear people say, oh, those older kids, they lose their creativity, I think, well, maybe you should give them something to be curious about. Maybe you should build that into your lesson and then see what happens. Mm-hmm. And they go right back to being like the 5-year-old, like little geeking out. They love it. But I think it's changing it up and getting excited over your own lessons. And you be a creative designer. You bring that passion that you have for your subject matter, or for learning, for that matter, to your lesson design. And I think you will see a change in your students.
Such an important point about the importance for adults, teachers, to also explore their creativity. That lesson design can actually be an avenue through which you explore creativity. And we know, we're talking here at ISTE, there's so many presentations about the importance of creativity in students. Well, it's important in everyone. And so we're facing right now a crisis in the teaching profession. We need to figure out, how do we engage teachers? And I'm not suggesting it's the panacea to every issue, but it seems like something that if we could put more agency and tools in teachers' hands and really encourage teachers to create, as opposed to kind of give them prescribed, you're doing it this particular way, that could bring some joy back to teachers, and that joy translates directly back into the classroom. Do you think that that's true?
That's really true, and I'm going to take it a step further. I've been reading in the news every day that we're getting to more and more prescribed. I'm going to tell you what you have to teach in your classroom. These are the standards you have to teach, and people feel locked in, and they're losing that drive and that excitement for being a creator of a learning experience. And I'm going to ask teachers to try a HyperDoc lesson that you design and design their standards and content that they want you to cover within that lesson, but bring in that engagement and that excitement and that community where you pull ideas of all your students together in one place through this design. I think you'll see that you're not just going there and being the robot teacher. You are bringing your passion to teaching because you crafted a really special learning experience for them. That's why I say you don't want to do them every day. It takes a lot. So sometimes I encourage teachers to do one a month or one a quarter or trimester, however you teach, and then watch the kids' reaction and study them. I think that's another part to it I don't talk about enough. When you give your lesson plan, you give the lesson to the kids, it gives you time away from the front of the room. That was why I love flipped teaching, because I wasn't standing up in front of the room. I'm walking around the room. I'm studying my students as learners. I'm sitting with those who are struggling. I actually have time to connect with them personally. It removes me from being the one that is just trying to control students into compliance of sitting there and paying attention. And I'm with them in that. And I think that's something that I encourage people to, even if you feel locked into a system that is just telling you, but I can't do this, I have to teach this lesson. I take my textbooks all the time and HyperDoc a lesson from it. And I just feel like, that was so much better. I feel so much better today. That was so fun. And the kids are like, can we do that again? And it kind of motivates me to say, I want to bring that excitement because they're reacting pretty well to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done the same exact thing, build HyperDoc based off of my textbook or have a textbook become one of the resources in the Explore phase or something like that.
Exactly.
There are lots of ways you can do it, definitely. If somebody's interested in getting started with HyperDocs, what would you suggest to them? Where should they go to find some resources to help them out?
So we have built a fully asynchronous academy at hyperdocs.co. And we have made every single video lesson along with examples and written portions to it so teachers can learn it on their own. The other place they can go, I encourage them to go, is to the HyperDoc Facebook group, which that is actually where I first met you, Sam. Sam is a big contributor to our Facebook group. He knows the power of that group, don't you, Sam?
Definitely.
Isn't it an amazing place?
Absolutely, yeah.
It blows me away, those teachers in there, because they're so giving. And I love those natural conversations. Some people don't want to go and do a lesson, It's like joining a gym. Like, I have to go now, to all the, often. But the conversation around lesson design is that collaboration that many teachers are just craving and missing. Maybe they don't have that at their school. And you can find that in this group, in this unique setting. And you can find, that maybe you're going to find that science teacher that you like to share lessons back and forth with. And that's the place to do it.
It's teachers coming together, collaborating, sharing resources so you're not out there on your own, and you can take advantage of the internet and share with teachers all around the world what you've created and build your archive slowly over time. I think that was an important point you made as well, that it's not about you're suddenly shifting to now you're doing this 100% of the time. Maybe you find one place in a quarter. And if you join something like HyperDocs Facebook group, then you can just add to your repertoire of activities a lot faster. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. If we want to find more information about you, the folks who are watching this right now, where should we go?
Well, I tend to hang out on Twitter. I'm L Highfill on Twitter. That's where you can find me. I'm not the most chatty social media person, but I also have Teachers Give Teachers at TS Give TS on Twitter and in the Facebook group or hyperdocs.co. You can reach out to me. I really love connecting with educators, one teacher at a time. It's my motto.
We definitely have to have a follow-up conversation. I can't wait to chat with you again in the future, Lisa. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. It's great to meet you in person finally.
Absolutely. You as well.